Monday, March 3rd. Welcome to Fantasy Football Today. Here it's Adam, Heath, Dave, and Jamie, and we are talking about Deebo Samuel going to the Washington Commanders, some other news items from around the NFL, and the winners and losers from the NFL Combine. And it really feels like with this Deebo trade and free agency coming up, the offseason, it's kind of over, right? It's like it's game time now. There's going to be a lot. I mean, seriously, Dave, there's going to be a lot of stuff happening. Trades, signings, people getting cut, and then of course, all the draft set up.
Yeah, I mean, usually the real dead spot is after minicamp wraps up in June, and then like almost all of July, nothing happens. But between now and then, a lot of stuff's going to happen. A lot of players are going to change teams. We've got our first one with Deebo Samuel, and you got to keep tabs on it. I talked about it all the time during the season. This is where fantasy managers get better at fantasy football, by paying attention to the league in general. You get ideas on how players are going to do with their new teams. You're not thinking about it on the fly in your draft. There's going to be some idiot in every draft that goes, wait a minute, Deebo Samuel's on the Commanders? But we know about it now, and we talk about it now. And we'll do it with every other player that changes teams or gets a contract extension like Matthew Stafford got. So he'll stay with the Rams. You get my point, Adam.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's look, guys, at the Deebo trade. So the Commanders acquire Deebo Samuel for a 5th-round pick. They're going to pay his entire salary, the Commanders are, for 2025, which is $17.5 million. Here are some fun facts. Terry McLaurin had 16 end zone targets in 2024. That's a lot. Deebo Samuel has had 17 end zone targets in his entire career.
He had 2 last year.
These two guys were in the same draft class. Deebo Samuel is actually younger than McLaurin. They're both 29 years old. Deebo was drafted 40 picks ahead of Terry McLaurin. In Terry McLaurin's 6 seasons in the NFL, only once has a number 2 receiving option on the team had more than 92 targets. And a number 2 receiving option on the team has never had more than 670 receiving yards in McLaurin's 6 seasons. Will Deebo Samuel top 670 receiving yards in 2025?
Can you imagine if he doesn't?
I can't, unfortunately.
He misses half the season.
Yeah, I think if he's healthy, he definitely does. Probably in that. The interesting thing is going to be how Cliff Kingsbury kind of moves him into this offense. We know Deebo at his best has been a low A-dot guy. A lot of the low A-dot stuff last year went to Zach Ertz and Austin Eckler. And Deebo can definitely function in that part of the field. And those were guys who I think when they got to Washington, we kind of thought, man, is it over for this guy? Is he washed? Zach Ertz is just going to play a couple of games before Ben Sinnott takes over, right? But they seem to like surrounding their young quarterback with veteran playmakers. I think this could be a really good situation for Deebo if he can stay healthy.
It's a great move for the Commanders. It's an absolutely no-brainer move for the Commanders. You know, they gave up nothing to get him. The 49ers paying his salary, 5th-round pick. It's a smart move by them to see what he possibly has left. And to your point, Heath, the Commanders were top 5 in wide receiver screens last year. So this is something that could clearly benefit Deebo if he does stay healthy. But I think, you know, it's 2 separate conversations. It's Deebo's fantasy value versus what it does for Jayden Daniels and the Commanders. Commanders win, Jayden Daniels wins. He gets, you know, another playmaker that's an upgrade over Diami Brown and Noah Brown and these guys. Look, if Deebo has anything left, he's going to crush those guys, clearly. But does he still offer a lot from a fantasy perspective? And I would say the answer is probably not, unless he just has one of these magical turn back the clock type of seasons. He was miserable last year. He was absolutely awful. Got off to a good start. But if you were to say going into the season, Christian McCaffrey's going to play 3 games, and Brandon Ayuk is going to tear his ACL early in the season. Deebo Samuel is going to be an absolute monster. And he had the worst year of his career. You know, so clearly the 49ers told you what they think of him. They gave him away for nothing. And so
they are not paying his salary. The Commanders are paying his salary.
I thought they were paying salary.
I will double check, but according to the ESPN article I just read, they are. So that's what they're getting. It's a salary cap dump. Yeah, it's a salary cap dump for the 49ers.
Gotcha. Okay. I thought they were paying a salary. So still, I mean, you know, take a chance on a guy for what he has, you know, hopefully left. I mean, if you're looking at it on YouTube, you can see what his player page looks like. He got off to a great start the first 2 games.
Yeah, scroll down.
Completely downhill.
Scroll down, though, because look at this. First 2 games, 19 targets. Remember, Brandon Ayuk played, but he was coming off a holdout.
And no Pearsall.
Misses week 3. If you want to sit here and make excuses for Deebo Samuel, he played through a lot of injuries. He missed week 3 with a calf injury, I believe. And then, he dealt with some other injuries. He had that one game where he had like pneumonia and he barely played. I think that was probably.
He was in the hospital.
Yeah. And then he actually played that week. So the following game, he didn't miss a lot of time, but he was very injured. He had an oblique injury. So I look at the first 2 games, gets off to a blistering start. Then he misses week 3. And we've used that excuse, for example, for DK Metcalf, right? He was terrible coming off the injury. Unfortunately, this injury was in week 3, but maybe he just had an extremely injury-plagued season. How about the fact that in 2022, Deebo had a really bad year and he bounced back with a good 2023? Does anybody think he can be a top 24 receiver?
No.
I'm not drafting him as a top 36 receiver.
I will draft him as a top 36 wide receiver. I will not draft him as a top 24 wide receiver, but I think he could be. Sure.
Do we lower Terry McLaurin? And if so, how much?
No.
A little bit, but not much.
Where did you? So I struggle with Terry McLaurin because I love the guy. I had him as a top 20 receiver before the trade. I don't think this is going to impact his target volume much, if at all. I think Jamie nailed it when he said that Deebo is an upgrade over Zacchaeus and who else was in there? Noah Brown played more on the outside. Right. De'Ami Brown and Zacchaeus. All right. So first of all, I think one or both of those guys are free agents anyway. So Deebo replacing them as a short area target. His ADOT's been under 7 yards basically his entire career, but certainly the last 2 years. Zacchaeus and Brown, De'Ami Brown, they had a low ADOT as well. That's the replacement, and that's what he can do. But this is a team in Washington last year. They didn't throw the ball very much. I think they were like a 52% pass rate. So on average, what are we going to see from Jayden Daniels? How many times is he going to throw the ball? Maybe 30 times a game. And so that could lead to like 6 targets per game for Deebo. And I like that. That's a 20% target share. But he's not an end zone target guy. I don't think he needs to be that. I think McLaurin can be there. I think McLaurin is still a number 2 wide receiver. I'm having a tough time putting guys like Devontae Adams, DJ Moore, for now, Chris Godwin, ahead of Terry McLaurin, even though I do expect touchdown regression to smack Scary Terry.
I will say, I think situationally, this is better for Deebo. Like they threw 8 fewer passes than the 49ers last year. And there's not near as much target competition as there was in San Francisco. There's a much better chance for Deebo's volume to go up in Washington than there was if he had stayed in San Francisco.
Well, that's assuming that they're done. Also,
that's true.
They probably need to get younger at that position.
Yeah, if you just say Terry McLaurin is Brandon Ayuk, I think that even if they make more additions, they're probably not getting to what San Francisco has in terms of target competition.
I would agree. Yeah,
and
but you also have a mobile quarterback that's going to run too.
But Jayden Daniels started out his season not really throwing that much.
Right.
In 4 of his first 5 games, he was at each of his first 5 games, 30 or fewer pass attempts. Let's just go to week 8 because Carolina was week 7. He left that game with an injury. He threw 2 passes. Jayden Daniels from week 8 on, he played 12 games, not including week 18, where he threw 12 passes. He threw more than 30 or more passes in 11 of those 12 games. And the way Jayden Daniels, and honestly, Dave, I wasn't even aware of it until this morning. The way he finished his last 8 games, including 3 playoff games, he averaged 32.5 fantasy points per game in 6-point per passing touchdown leagues. Now, that is not including week 18, which they pulled the starters. So his last 8 games that he finished, his 17-game pace was 4,281 passing yards, 43 touchdowns, 6 more rushing touchdowns, 444. And I have to be wrong about the rushing yards. Sorry. No, I did the rushing yards wrong. It's probably about 850 rushing yards or something, if not more.
This is all extrapolated pace.
Yeah, this is last 8 games. He just went berserk, and not including week 18 again. He played
right
half the game. So, but they were throwing more, and that was and they gave up a lot of points in those games. They gave up almost 30 points per game. So we have to keep that in mind. They gave about 26 points per game before the Eagles hung 55 on them in the championship game. But they were a little more pass heavy than I realized, which is encouraging. Does this
You should
move?
probably trade for him.
Yeah, Heath and I are both trying to trade for Jayden Daniels in the Dynasty League. So the price is steep. And the guy who has him thinks that his trade value just went up in Dynasty. I don't really know if I agree with that because like Deebo's 29, but did it go up in Dynasty and did his value go up in redraft?
I think it got just a little bit safer, and there's just a little bit more upside. It's really hard to rank a quarterback in Dynasty ahead of Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson, but Jayden Daniels is right there knocking on the door. And I wouldn't if somebody wanted to say that Jayden Daniels is now the number one quarterback in Dynasty, I think it's close enough that I wouldn't argue that much.
Right, but wouldn't he have been there anyway without the Deebo trade? How does the Deebo trade suddenly catapult him ahead of
Deebo Samuel? Is, I think in most people's minds, offers significantly more upside than De'Ami Brown and Olamide Zaccheaus as a
Sure.
offensive weapon.
Sure, but for how many years?
Right. Well, it speeds up his 2025, and
2 to 3.
I don't think
he's got two 29-year-old wide receivers.
Yeah, this is a team that could add another wide receiver. I take everything we're saying and throw it down the toilet.
I would say, and take this, for what it's worth. They're basically following the Houston model, right? Rookie quarterback has an amazing season. Go out and get a veteran guy that you think is going to help your receiving core. Houston did it with Stephon Diggs. Obviously, it worked out for half a season before, or whatever, how many games he played before the ACL tear. This is a different franchise, with this front office and coaching staff. They're going to be aggressive as they're showing you, and especially in this early window of his rookie contract for Jayden Daniels, it makes sense to go and spend on pieces that you think are going to help you. So they identified Deebo Samuel as somebody that could help them again. Using the same offensive system that they had a year ago. He'll work in the short area range. Maybe they don't bring back Zach Ertz. Who knows if they trust Sinnott or don't think that Ertz is worth whatever contract. We'll see what they do with Austin Eckler, another older player. So this team is going to turn over quickly. It's going to have to, because of McLaurin and Samuel and Ertz and Eckler and their ages. But they're showing you that they're going to be aggressive in putting pieces around their quarterback. They did it last year. They're doing it again this year. I think, as we're sort of illustrating, they have to get younger. I don't think Luke McCaffrey, as their only young receiver right now, makes sense. He's not a guy to build around. So we'll see what they do in this draft class, but it's pretty obvious. Like, they're not just going to rest and say, okay, we like what we have. They're going to be aggressive in putting pieces around.
Yeah. I think when you think about Deebo Samuel's production, don't forget all the rushing. You just don't know if they're going to use him even the same capacity, and his rushing totals keep going down. His stat page ain't so hot. And the two areas that were really bad for Deebo last year were yards per carry. Actually, his yards per carry was 3.2 yards per carry. He's usually around 5.5 or 6. And I think the bigger issue for me is target per route run rate. Why wasn't he targeted? Especially without Ayuk, without McCaffrey. Like we said earlier, his target per route run rate was 19.5%. It had not been below 23.7% in any of the previous 4 seasons. And
he didn't play every down either. He was like, year over year, he was like in like the high 60% route participation rate range. Say that 5 times fast.
It just sounds to me like he wasn't healthy.
That's the thing.
Which is part of the thing, right?
Or is he just in steep decline? He's only 29. I mean, like 29 is not great for Dynasty, but it's not old for a wide receiver.
A good wide receiver, 29, you'd expect he's got 3 good years left.
But the problem is he was never a guy that separates. And so he's going to have to rely on contested catches and creative offensive play calling, which I think the latter certainly applies. But he's never going to be, I think, a high target guy. I just don't see that being part of his game. And so, like, he had the one breakaway touchdown against Seattle last year. He got off to a good start because the targets were up. Is that the norm? Is that something to expect in this offense? And I don't think that's the case. So it just depends, I think, on where you're valuing him and what your expectations are. Like, if you're expecting him to be a number 3 receiver with a chance, like he said, he could still be a top 24 guy if he scores a lot of touchdowns. And the number 1 receiver in Washington last year scored a lot of touchdowns. That's something that I think we could see from, maybe a couple of the McLaurin touchdowns go to, Deebo, if you're going to just start to, spread around the numbers from a year ago. And again, if they move on from Zach Ertz, then you're talking about a second-year tight end that didn't play very much, if that's the replacement. a lot of upside in Benson, but can he assume that role? So you got some moving parts here still. Again, what do they do? Still in free agency, still in the draft. Noah Brown made some plays for them last year. I think he's coming back. Diami Brown, I think, is still in his last year of his rookie deal.
He's not. He's a free agent.
Okay. Well, Zacchaeus
both Browns and Zacchaeus are free agents. So the only guys that are coming back,
they're turning over everything there. So
Luke McCaffrey is still there, but I don't think.
But again, he didn't do very much. Right. So what does the rest of this receiving core look like? Is it these two guys and a bunch of young players? Then it's a great situation for both of them. But if it's go out and get, let's say, not this name, but this type of move, a Darnell Mooney type of player, a veteran guy that could still offer a lot, and that somebody's willing to give up or is on the market, then it changes, I think, the conversation.
Yeah. Should be noted, it's a pretty horrible wide receiver market, assuming Higgins stays, and they Bucks obviously seem to want to retain.
Right. They're not going to get Devontae Adams, for example.
Yeah, he might be the best of the guys that actually change teams. We'll see. All right, we got to take a break. Before we do that, though, it is March. So that means it's March Madness time. So that means you're going to have to compete against us in a bracket challenge. I'll give you details as we get closer. But it's a very fun time of year, and we're going to do a bracket challenge, and whoever wins it is going to be in the podcast league. Let's take a break, and we have not even spoken about the 49ers side of this, so we'll do that, although I think we did that a couple weeks ago when the trade request was granted or whatever. But, yeah, we'll be right back to talk about the rest of this deal. And I'll throw out some names, Deebo Samuel or Terry McLaurin, or after this.
Gives it to Jenkins for the championship. A 16 beats a 1. From sweet to elite to the Final Four.
Who's the biggest winner in the Deebo Samuel trade from a fantasy perspective?
Jauan Jennings.
Yeah, Jennings, Pearsall, Kittle.
Dave?
I'm in full agreement.
Okay. Well, Jamie threw out 3 names, so I don't really know if that's fair. But biggest loser?
Olamide Zacchaeus. We hardly knew he. Yes.
I don't know if there is a loser, to be honest with you.
I think Deebo's going to – I don't think he goes up much in my rankings. I mean, I already said I don't think he's a top 36 wide receiver. I'm not going to draft him to be a starter in 3 receiver leagues.
Not McLaurin, though. You guys seem unfazed.
I mean, a little bit, but not enough, I think, to, spot or 2 in the rankings, maybe.
Right. Like
it's going to take another significant addition. There was plenty of room for Deebo Samuel to walk into this offense, and if he has a career high 120 targets, it may not impact McLaurin.
I guess if there's a loser, it would probably be the starting tight end for Washington.
Okay. Best San Francisco value, and this is just based on the most recent draft we did, which was half PPR.
When we didn't know that Deebo Samuel, well, we knew Deebo was getting traded. We didn't know he'd go to the Commanders. So where did they go? Where did Jennings and
Pearsall by far?
It's
George Kittle in round 4.
Eh.
Jauan Jennings in round 7.
Huh?
Ricky Pearsall at the 9-10 turn.
I think I like the Jennings value the most.
I think I do too.
Pearsall for me by a mile.
You guys are going to rank Jennings ahead of Pearsall?
As of now,
I don't.
They're
Yeah,
gonna be almost back to back.
I've got Jennings inside my top 36. I have Pearsall just outside my top 36. I think Jamie said it really very well. Back to back.
Are either one of them ahead of Ayuk for you guys?
Both.
Yeah, I've got Jennings ahead of Ayuk. I got a Jennings, Ayuk, Pearsall right now, but
I mean, that's the next domino out of San Francisco. He's getting moved too.
I don't know how they could move him.
They're not going to get anything. They had their shot to get something, and they didn't.
Talking about Ayuk, right?
Brandon Ayuk.
You're gonna get a 7th round
that
pick or
would
something.
Jennings and Pearsall just studs.
Right. Yeah, if that's all they're going to get is a 7, then I don't know why they do it unless he's just a total malcontent.
Well, Ayuk?
Yeah.
They're doing it for salary if they trade him.
And there's certainly some evidence that he's at least not all the way. I'm not sure if I want to go to malcontent, but he's not been content.
I mean, if you have to pay Purdy, you have to pay some guys on defense. Trent Williams wants more money.
I get it.
Would you
Makes
rather
sense.
have Deebo Samuel or Jauan Jennings?
Jauan Jennings.
I've got Deebo right now.
I got Deebo at the bottom of everybody we've talked about except for Olamide Zaccheaus.
You'd have Pearsall ahead of Deebo.
Yes.
Yeah, same.
Just Deebo in the drafts we did last week before the trade, he went just ahead of Jennings. He went in the beginning of round 7. It was Deebo Samuel, Jerry Jeudy, Jauan Jennings, Michael Pittman.
That sounds about right to me.
Would you rather have Deebo Samuel or Jayden Reed?
Reed.
Well, I guess today it's Reed.
Yeah.
Let's see who ends up on the Packers.
That's a good point. Very fair.
If DK is a Packer, then definitely Deebo. I might rather have Deebo now.
All right. Well, that is our recap of the Deebo Samuel trade, and good stuff. Let's see. What do we got? More news and notes. So the Jets are expected to trade or move on from Devontae Adams, and we are excited to see where he ends up. Or maybe we're not. I don't know.
We?
Yeah.
Just going to destroy Malik Neighbors?
Oh, man. Yeah.
Oh.
Are you looking forward to the New York Jets Giants?
I don't even know anymore. It wouldn't be the worst thing.
Oh God.
Rodgers and Adams.
But you can't actually sign Aaron Rodgers and then draft Cam Ward and expect that's going to work out well.
They're
Why?
not going to have the chance to get Cam Ward.
No, they're going to trade up.
Unless they trade up.
5 years ago, Aaron Rodgers didn't want to have a rookie quarterback on the team with him.
2 years ago, he did. Wasn't he trying to mentor Sam Darnold or Zach Wilson?
No, Zach Wilson.
He was trying to
Wilson
mentor
was
Zach
there
Wilson,
first.
and he did.
Yeah,
Wilson,
he did.
Wilson was a second-year guy,
Okay,
and
it doesn't matter. He
And
wanted
no
to-
it was
threat.
obvious that
Yeah,
he was
right. It
going
wasn't a
to replace
threat.
him.
I don't know. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is stand-up.
If they do it, it'll be great content. But it would be a terrible idea.
Aaron Rodgers is a stand-up guy. He will be great for any locker room. It'll be wonderful. So speaking of all the quarterback, first of all, the Patriots are apparently not planning to pursue
Daniel Hackett as your offense coordinator will be great.
T.
Daniel
Higgins, according to The Athletic. Matthew Stafford agreed to a restructured contract with the Rams, who are also giving Alaric Jackson, an offensive lineman, a 3-year, $57 million deal. Okay, so then the Giants were really in on Matthew Stafford, apparently. They are still interested in signing a veteran quarterback, and there is a lot of buzz that they're going to try to trade up to the number 1 spot in the draft to draft a rookie quarterback. Don't know who. They've been linked to Sanders. It just,
You know who.
everyone has Cam Ward higher than Shadur Sanders.
Rightfully so.
I also saw like Travis Hunter. I'll double check on this, but last I saw he had very long odds of being the number 1 pick, like plus 800 or something like that. I want to look that up. I feel like that could be interesting. Plus 600 I'm seeing here. It's Cam Ward and Abdul Carter apparently are the top, but Abdul Carter has a stress reaction in his foot. Keep that in mind. This would be an interesting trade. The Raiders could be interested in trading Michael Mayer. They're now going to be 3rd-year tight end, who was the 35th pick in the draft in 2023. Good prospect, but of course he got Brock Bowers. And Jeremy Fowler thinks Justin Fields has an edge over Russell Wilson to be Pittsburgh's starting quarterback. Domino's
will be cheaper.
Yeah, well, it's just going to be a very interesting week, and however long it takes for these quarterbacks to end up somewhere. Okay, let's talk about the NFL Combine. And Dave, your overall takeaways from what we saw at the Combine as it relates to fantasy football?
I mean, it feels to me like the best players were the ones you didn't see running around in underwear drills and they got measured. Like Ashton Genty was there and he got measured, and Cam Ward and all that stuff. But a lot of names are going to be on fantasy managers' radars just because of the 40-yard dash. And that's always an attractive thing. You want to look at players that run fast. That's a really good skill to have if you're in the National Football League. And so a lot of questions on Matthew Golden from Texas. I think he's fantastic. I think he might be the best wide receiver in this draft. A lot of questions about Bashal Tutin from Virginia Tech. He had the fastest 40 time among running backs. He was at the Senior Bowl. Honestly, none of the running backs at the Senior Bowl were overly impressive, but he's going to get a lot of attention. You can bring up anybody you want, Adam. I still believe, and this includes the running backs, I think it's a solid class. I think it's deep, running back, receiver, tight end. But I don't know how many studs there are outside of Janty. And honestly, I'm not even sure if the other tight ends can be like at that Brock Bowers tier, elite level type of like superstar for fantasy purposes. It's really going to come down to where these players go, how quickly do they have an opportunity, and how can we see the path for them to see, for a tight end 6 targets per game, for a wide receiver 7 targets per game, for a running back 15 touches a game. We know we're going to get that with Janty. Who else in this draft class can we see that immediately for? I'm not sure.
Hampton would be fun.
I mean, Hampton is, so this is Amarian Hampton from UNC. 6 foot, 221 pounds, and he ran a 4.46.
Yep.
I was reading on CBSSports.com. He had a relative athletic score, RAS, 9.93, which ranked 14th out of 1,909 running backs since 1987.
Pretty good.
That might have been the unofficial numbers. I think he's down to a 9.61 now.
Because he a 4.48 in the 40, right? And those 2 100ths of a second might have brought his score down, but it's still really good. And he's a great player. Send him to a team where he's going to get a lot. Send him to the Chargers, please. Janty goes ahead of him in the draft. He's the second running back off the board. Send him there. But whatever we would say about Hampton going to the Chargers would be almost the exact same thing we'd say about Caleb Johnson going to the Chargers, or one of the Ohio State running backs going to the Chargers. I prefer Judkins over Henderson, but who knows what they'll do.
I thought this weekend really affirmed the idea that, like, we went from having 0 running backs in round 1 of Superflex drafts last year, Superflex rookie drafts, to likely half of the first round could be running backs.
In super,
yeah, like
it'll probably depend where they end up, but
right.
That seems a little aggressive, but I think 4 to 5 makes sense.
Yes, 4 to 5. I think 4 is certain almost, unless it's just something disastrous happens on draft day for one of these guys.
Right. There's going to be one team that just completely poops all over us fantasy managers and takes a guy with another player that's in his prime.
Like a Charbonnet with Ken Walker.
Right.
Yeah. So, but Hampton, as someone who has the 3rd pick in a Superflex draft, what Hampton did made me very happy, because I don't think I'm going to get Genty. I'm probably not going to get Cam Ward, but those would be like my big 3, and then maybe Tyler Warren too. I think is great tight end prospect, although he had the shortest wingspan of the tight end group and pretty small hand size apparently. So he did not have a great measure.
I think you should definitely take Tyler Warren.
Yeah, why, you have the 4th pick?
No, I have like the 6th pick, but I think that's the only chance that he's going to go before me.
Oh, you think so? Yeah. Well, anyway, I think it was very. I think Hampton helped himself so much that made me feel better about having that 3rd pick, because I feel like if I get Genty, Hampton, or Ward, I'll be pretty happy.
A lot of people have Ted McMillan going in that top 3 also.
Yep.
And I like Henderson a lot. He didn't test quite as well as Hampton, but not bad. Harold Fannin, just kind of a mediocre day at tight end.
Yeah.
Not there was a lot of not bad enough to rule them out, but not good enough to get excited about. And that's kind of where I'd put both Henderson and Fannin.
Save that quote. That's the draft. Outside of a handful of players.
Now, I think I'm a little more optimistic about the running backs and tight ends than you are.
Maybe.
And I think the wide receivers and quarterbacks, it's a pretty bad year.
I think that, again, for fantasy purposes, there's going to be a team like what the Chargers did, where they or the Giants, they end up with Tracy and Vidal, for example. There's going to be situations like that where the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th running back ends up in the great spot, and 2nd, 3rd, 4th running back ends up in a crappy spot, because that's just what teams do. They go and get their best player that's on their board, and they don't see necessarily as Trey Benson. Eventually he'll be good. Well, James Conner hangs on for another year, and then they re-sign him, and now it could be 2 or 3 years before we see the best of Trey Benson. So it's just unfortunate that we can't say, okay, yeah, let's just send Hampton to the Chargers. That'd be great.
The quarterback wild card has got to be Jalen Milroe, just from a fantasy standpoint, right? Because the upside is insane. He had 20
How
rushing.
did his hand size grow so much?
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a crazy thing.
Just stretching, just doing some stretches.
Right. And so 9 inches is apparently the minimum that that NFL quarterbacks should have in terms of hand size. Milroe went from under that to like well over that in a week or whatever. What was the Senior Bowl that he got measured?
Senior Bowl, he was under 9 inches. And then at the combine, suddenly he was like, it wasn't even like 9 1/4 inch. I don't know exactly what it was, but his hands got bigger. He's still growing. He drank his milk and ate his Wheaties, and he's a growing boy.
By the way, I was reading about this, officially it's cosmetic surgery that a lot of men are having where they get something put in their legs to grow 3 inches. And I read it's like $75,000 to grow 3 inches, and you could do it up to 2 times.
Man, this sounds bad.
So I could, if I had 150K, I could be the tallest person on the show.
Wow, you go from you'd be 5'6" by the end of the surgery.
I was gonna say I don't think 150,000 is gonna get you.
Adam's gonna need 225,000.
Oh, how tall are you, Heath?
6'3".
Ooh, okay, yeah, no. I'm gonna need another 25K to match that.
So wait, hold on. How did you stumble upon this?
It just came up in my news feed. It's
Yeah,
like cosmetic surgery that men are splurging for, or whatever.
Why would cosmetic surgery for men be in your news feed, Adam?
I don't know. It's just totally random. But yeah, just something to think about for all of you short people out there like me. All right, let's take a break. We'll talk a little bit more about.
Adam shows up to his tennis match with Dan, 6'2".
Giant Gonzalez.
I can give you a tennis update if you want. By the way, I'll give you a tennis update. All right, we'll be right back on FFT.
Who's in? Who's out? Let the madness begin. The NCAA Men's Basketball Championship Selection Show on CBS and streaming on Paramount Plus.
All right, any combine losers that we want to talk about? I do think it's interesting to note that Cam Ward and Ohio State quarterback Will Howard have 9-inch hands, which is the smallest acceptable size. They have the smallest hands basically in the quarterback class, unless there's someone who's under 9. Oregon wide receiver Tez Johnson, 154 pounds.
He's lost weight since the Senior Bowl.
Yes, that's
he was 156 at the Senior Bowl. He made a bunch of great plays in practice, but when you go and you watch Tez Johnson play, every time he takes a hit, it looks like he could be dead.
Well, like if you're 150 pounds, shouldn't you be running faster than 4.5?
Yes, that's another issue.
I can try.
No.
Not till after my 6 inches of leg surgery. And then a lot of people really love Caleb Johnson, running back out of Iowa.
Yeah, slower time.
He's big. He's 6'1", 224. He ran a 4.57. I don't think that's terrible for his size, but he had the slowest 10-yard split amongst running backs, 1.62 seconds, 10-yard split, whatever. So
again, like this stuff shouldn't define anybody. And for the evaluators in the NFL, they use these data points as exactly that.
Well, but it seems like it had a pretty big impact on Bucky Irving last year.
And look what it did.
Right.
Look what the end result.
But the team seemed to react to it.
Sure, but if they had really studied, and listen, every team studied Bucky Irving's film, but maybe in the back of their mind it was, oh, he didn't run a fast 40. He's not that fast. He's not that good. I think people looked at Bucky Irving and said, this is a guy who can only play in passing situations. And Tampa, listen, if Tampa really knew that he could play in rushing situations, he would have been starting week 1. So ultimately, I think that it's the film. It's the film he did, but he wasn't dominant. He didn't play a ton. It wasn't like it was at the end of the year.
What do you have, 9 for 62 or something like that?
Maybe. Yeah, I don't remember. I'm old. I forget stuff. But teams are going to look at the film. They're going to judge the player's character, what he's like away from the team and what he's like when he's in the facility and all that stuff. And this stuff is going to be mostly secondary unless there's enough compelling evidence with height, weight, speed, all these other metrics where they don't fit certain criteria, where it's like, 90% of the wide receivers that are under 170 pounds don't make it very long in the NFL. So like something like that would crush Tez Johnson.
Here's a comment. I bet Adam's internet search history is pretty interesting. All right, so give me a letter. I'm going to type in a letter into the search bar and let's see what
P.
comes up. Pro Football Reference. Any
Lord,
other
computer.
letters?
What's the second one under P?
This is only going to get you in trouble. I don't know why you're doing this.
This is my work computer, okay? Like nothing is going to get me in trouble.
Take out your cell phone then.
All right. Bucky Irving, by the way. Bucky Irving ran a 4.55 40, but he did that at 5'9", 192 pounds. Caleb Johnson ran a 4.57 at 6'1", 224 pounds.
Sure.
Bucky Irving also had a 29.5-inch vertical, which I guess is bad. And I wrote in my notes, not the best athlete, but also I just think people were worried about his size because he is small.
Right.
He was small then.
And I don't think we should completely ignore it this year either.
Yeah, I think so. It's a valid point. All right. I don't know if you have any other combine thoughts, or we can read a couple emails.
Let's go to the emails.
I could also tell you about my tennis experience because I play a lot, and every single time I play, I think about what I'm going to do against Dan. Every time. I'm like, okay, maybe I'll win. So I played a guy who's very good, the best player I've played against Thursday night. And I knew he was great. I'd heard, and it was the first time I played him. So this was a big measuring stick for me. I think I won 1 point.
This measuring stick, did you have to pay to get bigger?
I think I won 1 point in the first 4 games. He beat me so thoroughly. He kicked the crap out of me. It was horrible. It was very humbling. And
how does he compare to Dan?
He'd beat Dan. He's better than Dan, but
so then you shouldn't be that upset over it.
Yeah, but I realize I can't beat Dan right now.
I would think you'd start getting better at some point.
I am getting better, but here's the thing: there are two worlds of tennis for me. There's the non-topspin world, and I'm very good in the non-topspin world. Like if you don't hit with a lot of topspin, I'm probably gonna beat you or come close. Like we're gonna be fine. The players who hit with a lot of topspin, I haven't played against it enough, and I've struggled mightily with it. And this guy hit with more topspin than Dan, but Dan's pretty good with that, and that was the biggest challenge for me. So I need to play against more players like that before I face Dan again. It's just another world. But Heath, I was a 3-0, and now I'm a 3-5. I would say Dan is a 4-0. I cannot beat a 4-0 yet. But
so
4 months,
you play at the gym near your house, right?
Yeah.
And you set up these games, or is it like pickup basketball?
So I'm in a kind of a league. We don't have any standings or anything, but I get matched up every Saturday.
Gotcha.
7:30 in the morning. I wake up at like 6:15.
Wow. But no, that's dedication. You want to get better. I'm impressed.
I play some good player. I played a guy who I played a 4-0. He says a 4-0. I think it's like close. This past Saturday, and he beat me 6-3, and then I was up 6-5 in the second set. So that was good progress this weekend. But otherwise, I just schedule games with my friends. And this
do you get participation trophies?
No, I don't get any trophies. But it's all about beating Dan. That is the only reason I'm doing this. So coming for him. I got a lot of work to do.
Well, if you ever want to feel better, you can come down here.
You're trying to get taller and better at tennis.
Yeah, I do need to get taller. For sure, I need to get taller. Also, Dan's a lefty. Lefties are tough to play against.
You can't request like lefty topspin 4-0 player.
That was the guy who beat me, who destroyed me on Thursday. It was top spinning lefty. All right. Emails from Jake at fantasyfootball@cbsi.com. It's our email address. This is from Jake. He says, I'm in a good place to make a run for it this year. These are all dynasty questions. I got nothing.
So like you forward me dynasty questions for my show, and then you answer them the day before on this show.
I read other ones. I read different ones. Okay. Yeah, I didn't forward you this one.
So I haven't received this one.
I'm pretty sure you have not.
Okay.
The ones that say, hey, Heath, are the ones I forward you.
Okay.
All right. So he's in a good place to make a run for it this year. His quarterbacks are all risky. I'd like to keep Anthony Richardson. I also have Darnold and Penix. Who is a good quarterback for me to target in a trade? The rebuilding teams are most likely to trade. Their quarterbacks are Mayfield, Stroud, Lawrence, Nix, and Mahomes. Oh, by the way, Dave, this is Jake from a town west of Chicago.
So like, what's that town in Iowa?
Council Bluffs.
No, that town sucks. Cheyenne, Wyoming is where he's from.
All right, so he
Ames
wants
is what I was thinking for Iowa.
he wants a safer quarterback to pair with Richardson. He mentioned Mayfield, Stroud, Lawrence,
yeah.
Nix, Mahomes. Who would you guys be making trades for?
I think last Tuesday what I told him was that he should Baker Mayfield was the best target.
Are you for real, Heath?
Oh, 100%. Yes.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, you should be trying to trade for all these guys.
I think the problem with anybody other than Mayfield is you're going to have to pay for the age of the younger quarterbacks or the upside of the.
Well, if you're trying to trade cheap, you're trying to trade for Lawrence and hope that he hits.
Right. But even then, I would imagine that the Lawrence manager would expect to get something good, not necessarily huge.
I would expect a bigger return for Mayfield than I would for Lawrence.
I
think they'd be about the same.
Baker Mayfield one spot ahead of Trevor Lawrence in my dynasty quarterback rankings.
He should trade Richardson
not
for one of them.
I think that I have an idea, Heath.
Yeah.
I think it's time for you in the Dynasty Show to get and I don't mean this in a mean way. You've graduated. You need your own email address.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that'd be great.
That's what we need to do.
Yeah.
Because I want to
Yeah,
answer
to
questions on
Adam.azer@paramount.com.
All right. This one is from Eric. Did you read this one yet, Heath?
I don't know.
Probably.
Eric from Where the Sticks Meet the Boonies.
That could be anywhere. That could be anywhere west of Chicago.
Grade this trade in a 10-team PPR Superflex league. Give Jonathan Taylor pick 102 and 209. Get Jahmyr Gibbs and a 2026 second round pick.
Ooh.
That's a lot.
One more time, please.
All right, so it's Jonathan Taylor, pick 102, 2.09 or 2.9. And in a 10 teams PPR Superflex league, you get Jahmyr Gibbs and a second round pick in 2026.
I don't like it.
Yeah, I think I'd rather have the Taylor side.
I would much rather have the Taylor side.
Okay, and then here's a separate trade. Give Patrick Mahomes and a 2026 second round pick. So he would actually have to complete the first trade to do this. But then he was going to turn around and give that second round pick in 2026 and Mahomes for Cole Kmet and 106 in a Superflex league.
Why?
No.
Huh?
No, bad trades. Oh, sorry. Eric! I just played the last Boy Scout song instead of the Eric soundbite. Bad trade for Eric.
He's got 102, you said?
He's got 102, yeah.
I mean, this almost feels like he just wants to trade. So trade after the draft. Because you have some capital there, especially if you get either Genty or Ward or Sanders, whoever you like.
Wow. I don't know if I should do that. You guys tell me. As we were speaking, a Jayden Daniels trade offer in our Dynasty League.
Ooh. I'll grade the trade right now.
Should I bring it up?
Yes.
Of course.
Right. I don't know. I feel bad for Tim.
You already told me and Heath what the trade is, so I mean.
No, this is new. We've been going about this for like a week, exchanging offers. So I have, all right, I offered Trevor Lawrence, Ladd McConkey, and a 2026 first round pick for Jayden Daniels and 107. He countered and said, I'll do this if you add 203 this year. So then I would give up Lawrence, McConkey, my second round pick this year, 203, and my first round pick next year for Jayden Daniels and 107.
107 this year.
Yeah, this year.
So you still have 103.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know why you're asking us.
Yeah, I think I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
So I have Lawrence and Ladd basically equal to Daniels.
So that would mean I'm getting 107 for 203 in next year's first.
Yeah.
If you think that's even. Okay.
I mean, you're just gambling that if you suck, you're giving him a very high draft pick.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's not really a gamble I think I'd want to make with your roster.
My roster could be good after this if I stay healthy. That's the
But
cap.
you're losing your second best receiver, right?
Yeah. Hopefully Odunze can be good. But
I like the trade. I think you should do it.
All right. I'm gonna make the trade. I'm gonna send this offer.
Thomas
Honestly,
off
do
the
you ever-
top rope in the private jet.
What do you say?
Oh, private chat.
Yeah.
Schaefer does not like my team. All right, I'll make this trade. Thank you, guys. Do you ever feel like you make trades that you don't think are great just because trading is so damn fun and you want to make one?
I did that like 20 years ago. I don't do that
I don't know
anymore.
if it's a great trade for me, but I want to make a trade. Trading is the best.
No, so like if that's your motivation to make a trade, you're probably losing out.
It's good that you're
I
giving
thought your
somebody else the league
motivation
a
was
better
to
chance
get
win.
Jayden Daniels. Like you wanted to have this guy on your team. He's hurt. He's Heath's QB3 in Dynasty. Is that right, Heath?
Of course, I want to get Jayden Daniels. I got even more excited when I saw how much he threw down the stretch, and he averaged 32.5 fantasy points per game in his last 8. I was like,
All right,
dang.
so what's your team look like now pre-draft after this trade?
He has one quarterback.
I have Garoppolo. So I have Jayden Daniels.
So Trevor Lawrence was your best quarterback.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, dude, this is great then.
Jayden Daniels, Ken Walker, Malik Neighbors, Roma Dunze. I don't really think we have to talk any more about this team.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no,
All right, so you gave up-
way that first round pick you just gave up. is
Yeah, you
gonna
gave
be
up a top 5 pick for 2026.
Because I'm gonna have at 103 and 107 are gonna be good for me.
This
You
year.
should,
I'm
you
gonna
should,
have two
you should try and
starters.
get to 101.
Maybe. I also
I don't
have.
think you should. I think you're good with
Roma
103 and
Dunze.
107.
I have Roma Dunze. I have Tank Bigsby. I have.
Tank Bigsby, your 4th best player. You're in trouble.
Like that's your RB2 and your wide receiver 2.
You're taking a running back at 103 and a receiver or a quarterback at 103.
He doesn't have a second quarterback yet.
That's not going to be hard for him to handle.
Yeah, I'll be all right. I have Trey Palmer. I have Khalil Herbert. I have Cooper Rush.
You have Deshaun Watson.
I see you trading for a lot of old guys.
Azer, I think you need to consult your co-manager.
He hasn't looked at the league since we started. I don't know why he's
With that roster, I wouldn't either.
I think I could make the playoffs if I nail my first round picks.
If half the league is tanking again, yeah, you got a shot. I think there's only going to be 1 or 2 tankers this year.
Okay, if I have Jayden Daniels, Ken Walker, Amarian Hampton, Malik Neighbors, Roma Dunze, and Dave, who'd you say your favorite wide receiver in this class was?
It might end up being Matthew Golden.
Matthew Golden.
But you might. I don't know if he's going to go 7th.
Well, something of that caliber.
Something, right? Sure, right.
This
is a league where you have to start 3 more flexes, and you still don't have your second quarterback.
I'll get my second quarterback. I'll figure that out.
You'll draft Tyler Shuck or Jackson Dart.
Well, they're
you don't have a 2nd round pick anymore.
No.
I might.
You just traded it.
Oh, I might have another one. Yeah, anyway, thanks guys. Thanks for screwing my team. We'll talk to you on Wednesday on Fantasy Football Today, as I think we're looking at the year 2 and 3 tight ends on Wednesday's show. So
right.
for that, and
a lot of Michael Mayer talk.
See you later.